If you're living with diabetes, prediabetes, or your doctor has cautioned you about elevated blood sugar, chances are you've already begun viewing food through a completely different lens. A bowl of rice doesn't feel innocent anymore. A slice of bread feels loaded with risk. Even a plain, ordinary potato can leave you wondering, will this send my numbers climbing again? And that's the draining part, because none of these are exotic or unusual foods. These are dishes you were raised on, meals that sat on your family's dinner table for generations, foods that make an ordinary meal feel ordinary. But once blood sugar turns into a concern, every single meal can start to feel like a test you might fail. You eat, and then the worrying begins. You check your numbers, and then guilt creeps in. Slowly, food stops feeling like comfort and starts feeling like a threat. So many people are simply told to quit eating bread, rice, and potatoes altogether. But for the vast majority, that's not a workable long-term fix. It might hold up for a handful of days, maybe a few weeks, but eventually, everyday life catches up with you. Here's something rarely explained to people. That same rice, that same bread, that same potato can influence your blood sugar in dramatically different ways depending on how it's cooked, what you pair it with, the sequence you eat it in, and what you do right after finishing your meal. So today, we're walking through the top practical strategies for enjoying bread, rice, and potatoes without launching your blood sugar onto a wild, unpredictable ride. Quick note before we dive in. This video exists purely for general education, not as medical guidance. If you're on insulin or any blood sugar lowering medication, please consult your doctor before making major shifts to your meals, because several of these strategies could lower your after-meal blood sugar more dramatically than you're anticipating. Let's kick things off with number 6, and this one catches nearly everybody off guard: resistant starch. I realize that phrase sounds like it belongs in a science lab, but bear with me, because this is genuinely just an easy kitchen trick. When you eat freshly made white rice, soft white bread, standard pasta, or a hot potato straight off the stove, your body breaks that starch apart fairly rapidly. That starch converts into glucose. That glucose then flows into your bloodstream. And if your body is already dealing with insulin resistance, that glucose doesn't clear out of your blood as efficiently as it once did. That's the moment you witness a spike. You eat what seems like a totally normal meal, and an hour later, your blood sugar reading has climbed higher than you'd hoped. And you sit there thinking, guess I can't have this anymore. But here's what almost nobody tells you. Certain starches can actually be transformed by your cooking method. When rice, potatoes, or pasta are cooked and then chilled in the fridge, part of that starch reorganizes its structure. It becomes tougher for your digestive enzymes to break down quickly. This gets called resistant starch because it resists rapid digestion. Picture it this way. Freshly cooked, piping hot rice behaves like dry kindling tossed into a fire. It ignites immediately. It burns through fast. But rice that's been chilled and then reheated acts more like a solid log. It still supplies energy, but it doesn't hit the flame all in one burst. That slower breakdown can translate into a gentler blood sugar climb for a lot of people. And the great news is, you don't need any special equipment or products. If rice is part of your diet, cook up a bigger portion, let it cool down, refrigerate it overnight, then warm it back up the following day. If potatoes are your thing, follow the same process. Boil, bake, or steam them, chill them in the refrigerator, and reheat them later. Even bread might respond to a comparable principle. Freezing a loaf and then toasting it can shift how some of that starch behaves. Now, this doesn't give you a free pass to eat unlimited rice or potatoes while ignoring portion sizes. Portions still count. Your body is still tallying up every carbohydrate. But it does mean that the identical food, prepared differently, can give your system a fairer shot. And that matters enormously, because most people are trying to win this blood sugar fight through sheer willpower alone. They declare, I'll never touch rice again. Bread is off limits forever. I'll just white knuckle it. But that's simply not sustainable for most people in the real world. A smarter question to ask is this: how can I make the foods I already enjoy gentler on my blood sugar? That's exactly where resistant starch earns its keep. You can also pick up resistant starch naturally from foods like beans, lentils, chickpeas, and steel-cut oats. These foods combine resistant starch with fiber, which is an incredibly useful pairing for managing blood sugar. Slightly green bananas also pack more resistant starch than fully ripened ones. As a banana softens and sweetens, more of that resistant starch converts over into sugar. So number 6 boils down to something simple. Cook it, chill it, reheat it. It might sound almost too easy, but sometimes the habits that stick are exactly the ones that don't feel like a burden. Now let's move on to number 5. Never eat your carbs naked. That might sound a little comical, but it's actually one of the easiest ways to lock this rule into memory. A naked carb is any carbohydrate consumed completely on its own. A plain slice of toast, a bowl of rice with nothing else, a bare potato, a plate of pasta lacking protein, fat, or vegetables. When a starchy food lands in your stomach solo, there's very little there to slow its journey. Your body gets hit with a rapid surge of glucose. Your blood sugar climbs quickly. Your pancreas has to scramble to keep up. But when that same carbohydrate is eaten alongside protein, healthy fat, fiber, or something acidic, the entire dynamic of the meal shifts. It's like installing speed bumps on a road. The glucose still makes its way into your system, but it doesn't come barreling in like a car speeding downhill with no brakes. Protein helps decelerate the whole process. It also triggers hormones that instruct your stomach to empty at a slower pace. That means glucose trickles into your bloodstream far more gradually. That's precisely why rice paired with beans outperforms rice by itself. The beans contribute protein, fiber, and resistant starch. They don't erase the rice's effect entirely, but they reshape the whole meal's impact. A solitary potato might spike some people's blood sugar quickly, but that same potato eaten alongside salmon, chicken, eggs, Greek yogurt, olive oil, or a serving of vegetables can behave in a completely different way. And for many older adults, this is precisely where meals start feeling normal again. You're not simply stripping food away. You're constructing a smarter plate. If toast is what you're craving, skip the plain toast and jam routine and add eggs, avocado, peanut butter, cottage cheese, or another protein that fits your needs. If rice is on the menu, don't let it be the entire meal. Toss in fish, chicken, tofu, beans, vegetables, or a healthy fat. If potatoes are involved, treat the potato as a single component of the plate, not the whole show. Now let's talk about acidity for a moment. A splash of vinegar, lemon juice, or lime juice added to a starchy meal may help slow down how quickly that starch breaks apart. It can also support a better insulin response for certain people. That's part of why a salad dressed in vinegar, eaten before the main course, can be genuinely beneficial. There's no magic involved. It's simply intelligent meal design. Fermented foods might help too. Items like sauerkraut, kimchi, or miso carry natural acids produced through fermentation. They may also nourish the gut bacteria that play a role in your long-term metabolic well-being. You don't need to transform every single meal into a laboratory experiment. Just hold on to this simple, old-school principle. Never send bread, rice, or potatoes into your body all alone. Give them some company. A bit of protein, a bit of fat, a bit of fiber, a bit of acid. That one small adjustment can make a meal significantly easier on your blood sugar. Now, on to number 4. Save the starch for last. This might be the single most practical trick in the entire video because it doesn't require you to change a single thing that's already on your plate. It only asks you to rearrange the sequence. Say you're sitting down for dinner and you've got chicken, vegetables, and rice in front of you. Most people dive into the rice first, take another bite, then some chicken, then some vegetables. But if blood sugar is a concern for you, that very first bite carries weight. When you begin with rice, bread, or potatoes, that starch reaches your digestive system rapidly. There's not much fiber or protein positioned ahead of it to slow the process down. Your blood sugar can start climbing fast. But when you begin with vegetables and protein instead, your stomach receives the slower digesting foods first. The fiber from vegetables, along with the protein from meat, fish, eggs, beans, or tofu, helps slow how quickly your stomach empties. Then, once the starch arrives later, it enters a much calmer digestive environment. Think of it like highway traffic. If every vehicle floods onto the road simultaneously, you end up with gridlock. But if the flow is spaced out, everything moves far more smoothly. That's exactly what eating order can accomplish for your glucose levels. Research involving people with type 2 diabetes has demonstrated that eating protein and vegetables before carbohydrates can produce a considerably lower post-meal glucose response compared to consuming the same foods in reverse order. Identical food, identical plate, identical portion, different sequence, different outcome. That fact alone deserves your attention because many people assume blood sugar management is only about eating less. But sometimes it's actually about eating more strategically. So here's the simple game plan. When your meal begins, start with the salad, the vegetables, or the protein. Spend a few minutes on those foods first. Then transition into your rice, bread, potatoes, or pasta. If you're dining out and bread arrives before your meal, let it sit there for a moment. You don't need to treat it like an enemy. You must battle. Just avoid letting it be the very first thing your stomach receives. Start with water. Start with salad. Start with vegetables if they're on the table. Then savor the bread later, alongside the rest of the meal. That single small habit can change how your body processes the exact same food. And for folks over 60, these small habits carry extra weight because they're far easier to sustain consistently. You don't need perfection. You need consistency. Now let's move to number 3. Take a brief walk after your meal. Not a full workout, not a gym session, nothing that requires changing clothes, grabbing equipment, or working up a sweat for an hour. Just a straightforward 10-minute walk. This is one of those habits that seems almost too minor to make a difference. But when it comes to blood sugar, timing gives it real power. After eating, glucose starts flowing into your bloodstream. If you plant yourself on the couch right away, your muscles stay quiet. They aren't demanding much fuel. But if you take a gentle stroll instead, your muscles begin drawing on that glucose. And remarkably, they can do this without relying entirely on insulin. That's a significant detail. When you walk, your calf and leg muscles function almost like little glucose sponges. They pull glucose straight out of your bloodstream and put it to work, powering your movement. One muscle worth mentioning here is the soleus. It's a deep calf muscle built specifically for steady, low-intensity activity. You don't need to sprint. You don't need a brisk, race training pace. Even a slow, comfortable walk can help your muscles absorb glucose after eating. The ideal window is typically within 15 to 30 minutes after your meal. That's when your blood sugar is just beginning its climb. Moving during that stretch is like catching a wave right before it crests too high. Now, if walking outside isn't safe or realistic for you, plenty of alternatives exist. Walk laps around the house. Stand up and tackle the dishes. Fold some laundry. Tidy the kitchen. Stroll slowly down the hallway. March in place during commercial breaks. If your balance feels shaky, hold onto the counter, use a cane, or check in with your doctor or physical therapist about safe ways to move. This isn't about impressing anyone. It's about preventing your body from going completely motionless right after eating. Plenty of people finish dinner and then settle into the recliner for 3 straight hours. And honestly, nobody's judging that. After a long day, that chair feels wonderful. But your blood sugar might not appreciate that pattern. So try this instead. Tell yourself, I'm moving for 10 minutes. Not 30, not 60, just 10. Walk out to the mailbox and back. Circle the block. Wander around inside your home. That modest bit of movement can help your body process the meal more effectively. And over time, it can also strengthen your legs, improve your balance, and boost your confidence. Now let's move to number 2. Pick carbohydrates that still resemble actual, recognizable food. This is where a lot of confusion sets in. People hear that carbs raise blood sugar and assume every carb behaves identically, but that's simply not accurate. A bowl of steel-cut oats has nothing in common with a sugary breakfast cereal. A dense, chewy, whole grain loaf is worlds apart from soft white bread. Beans and lentils don't behave like crackers. The real issue usually isn't the carbohydrate itself, it's what modern processing has done to it. When wheat gets milled down into fine white flour, the grain's natural structure gets completely dismantled. Your digestive enzymes can attack that structure almost instantly. That means the starch converts into glucose at high speed. White bread, most crackers, pastries, breakfast cereals, soft sandwich loaves, and instant oatmeal all tend to digest quickly because they're built from finely processed starch. For someone managing diabetes or prediabetes, that's comparable to tossing dry newspaper onto an open flame. It catches instantly. It burns through fast. The flame surges upward. But intact, minimally processed foods act differently. Steel-cut oats, barley, farro, beans, lentils, chickpeas, dense whole grain bread with visible grains and seeds throughout, these foods still retain much of their natural structure. Your body has to work through fiber and intact plant material before it even reaches the starch. That naturally slows everything down. Picture logs stacked inside a fireplace. They still burn. They still generate energy. But they don't flare up all at once. That's the kind of behavior you want from your carbohydrates. Slower, steadier, gentler. Now, this doesn't mean every single person needs to eat the exact same carbohydrate. Blood sugar responses genuinely differ from one person to the next. Some people thrive on oats. Some do better with beans. Some tolerate chilled rice more comfortably than fresh rice. Some simply need smaller portions across the board. A glucose meter can teach you an enormous amount about your own personal response, but as a general guideline, lean toward carbs that are less processed and richer in fiber. If your bread is soft, fluffy, and practically dissolves in your mouth like cotton candy, proceed with caution. If your cereal transforms into sugary water the second milk touches it, proceed with caution. If your oatmeal cooks instantly and has an almost paste-like texture, it may hit your bloodstream faster than steel cut or rolled oats would. Seek out texture. Seek out chewiness. Look for visibly intact grains. Reach for beans and lentils more frequently. And don't slash your fiber intake too aggressively. Fiber is genuinely one of your greatest allies when managing blood sugar. Soluble fiber, found in oats, beans, lentils, and countless vegetables, forms a gel-like coating in your gut that can slow how quickly glucose enters your bloodstream. Insoluble fiber helps keep your digestive system moving efficiently. Both varieties support a healthier gut environment overall. So if you're cutting back on carbohydrates, be careful not to eliminate the very element that helps your body manage carbs more effectively. For countless older adults, the goal isn't zero carbs. The goal is better carbs, better portions, and better timing. And that leads us into number 1. Move your last meal earlier in the day. This one gets overlooked constantly because it has nothing to do with the food itself. Yet timing carries real weight. Your body doesn't process glucose identically around the clock. Earlier in the day, many people are more insulin sensitive, meaning the body can typically manage glucose more efficiently during those hours. But as evening arrives, things begin to shift. Your body starts preparing for sleep. Melatonin levels rise. Your metabolism eases into nighttime mode. Your tissues may not respond to insulin as effectively as they did earlier in the day. So that identical meal your body handles reasonably well at noon could trigger a bigger, longer-lasting glucose surge at 9 p.m. That's exactly why late-night eating can become such a challenge for blood sugar. And for many people, it isn't limited to dinner alone. It's the bowl of cereal at 10 o'clock, the toast right before bed, the leftover potatoes from earlier, the snack grabbed while watching television because the house has gone quiet and the day is finally winding down. That late-night food can linger in your bloodstream longer than you'd expect. And the following morning, you might find yourself puzzled over why your fasting blood sugar reading is higher than usual. Now, life isn't always tidy or perfectly scheduled. Some people work late shifts. Some are caring for a spouse. Some juggle family schedules that make an early dinner nearly impossible. But whenever you're able, aim to wrap up your last meal at least 3 hours before bedtime. That window gives your body extra time to process the food before you drift off to sleep. If bedtime is usually around 10 p.m., try finishing dinner by 7. If that feels unrealistic right away, start small. Shift dinner 30 minutes earlier, then another 30 minutes. Small steps genuinely add up. And if you need an evening snack, choose something that won't hit your blood sugar hard. Talk with your doctor or dietitian about what actually fits your medications and your personal circumstances. Because for some people on insulin or specific diabetes medications, skipping nighttime food entirely might not be safe. That's exactly why personalized medical guidance matters so much. But the core takeaway remains simple. Don't hand your body a massive, starch-heavy meal right before sleep and then expect smooth, steady blood sugar overnight. It's a bit like handing your body a full basket of laundry the moment it's trying to switch off the lights for the night. Eventually, it'll get handled, but it won't be effortless. So let's tie all of this together. You don't have to spend your life fearing bread, rice, or potatoes. You simply need to stop treating them as harmless when they're eaten alone, piping hot, rushed, late at night, and in oversized portions. Cook and chill your rice, potatoes, or pasta whenever you're able. Pair your carbohydrates with protein, healthy fat, fiber, or a touch of acid. Eat your vegetables and protein first, and save the starch for later in.